Okay, without wasting time, here we have government is an agency or machinery in which the will of the state is expressed, attained, or formulated. It is also seen as an organization or system through which a state or community is ruled or controlled. It is a body or group of people with the authority to make and enforce laws, maintain order, and provide public service. Now, all know that government is an institute. Outside being an institute, there are a group of people who formulate the law. And this group of people, they are not just ordinary people, they are people with authority. They've been given to make laws and enforce laws in a state or a country. Now, the need for government came up as a result of people living
Teresa.
together,
Sorry for cutting you short.
interacting and working as well, and
Hello,
forming
Teresa.
different
Sorry for
associations.
cutting you
Now, together,
short.
working together, agree.
Hello, Teresa. Sorry for cutting you short. Please, can you be on the slide you are talking about? I think it will help the student follow. So if you're talking
Yes,
about
I'm explaining. I've
just
given the definition. I have to explain. That's what I'm doing.
exactly that makes more sense now. Thank you.
Okay, so here we said government is an agency or machinery in which the state is formulated, expressed, and attained. You can also say government is seen as an organization or system in which a state or community is ruled or controlled, or it is a body or group of people with the authority to make and enforce law. Authority, take note of that line, authority. So, talk about government. And don't just talk about ordinary individuals. These are people that have been given the authority, they are endowed with authority to make law and enforce law in the country, and to provide public service, rather to direct the individual behavior. And when you talk about government, the needs of government arose whereby, in the community, you see there are different kind of people. You have the rich, the poor, and those who even are so powerful. So without government, there will be like oppression of the poor. So like people living together, forming different associations, living and working. So without government, there will be conflict, disagreement, crisis, whatever you can think of. So the fundamental function of a government is now to implement these laws that will guide every individual so that they will not hurt one another. So there are different agencies formulated by government that regulate the rules and regulation in the country. And we have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. As we all know, the executive, they're responsible for law formulation and implementation. I don't know if I'm too fast. While the legislature, they involve in lawmaking. And then the judiciary, they concentrate mainly on interpretation of the laws. Now, we want to talk about the functions of government. What are the necessary functions of government? What are the roles government play in the country and in the society? One of the roles played by government is lawmaking. Government is responsible for making law in countries, and law are made to ensure peace and order in society. Now, I said the legislature are actually responsible for making laws. They're responsible for making the laws. Like we have the legislation, like the parliament, the National House of Assembly, they make laws. They make this the constitution, they draft out the constitution and the rest. So in making laws, governments are actually responsible for making laws to govern every individual in a country. Without this law, they said laws are those rules and regulations which guides the responsibility, which guides the behavior of each individual in a country. Now, you can't define law without sanction. Take note. You can't define law without sanction. So if you are implementing a law and there is no sanction to it, then it is not a law, it's just a rule, just an ordinary rule. So in formulating law, there should be a sanction whereby when the people breaks the rule, then there's a punitive sanction in the sense that they will be punished. So that's the function of the government. We know those people that punish, like the judiciary. Then we talk about the provision of social amenities. Provision of social amenities. Now, you know what is amenities like electricities, water, health centers, and the rest. So it's the responsibility of government to provide all these necessary things for the growth of a country or a community. So if a government is not actually providing this, it's actually lacking. Like, you know, when we talk about social contract theory, like we have Thomas Hobbes, we have John Locke and Jane Rousseau. They talk about the state, like Thomas Hobbes talk about the state being the people living in a state of nature, whereby the nature is it tends to be very short, brutal, and nasty. So without law, they consider nature as short, nasty, brutal. So maintenance of law and order, like, okay, I think I'm explaining about you, maintenance of law and order. So in maintaining law and orders in the country, it's also the responsibility of the government. Like, you know, those that maintain laws and order, like the police, they maintain laws and orders. Like when there is any offense committed by any individual, you know, you can also institute your case. You can also institute any criminal matter under the police. You cannot just go to court and then institute a case without involving the police. But if it has to do with individual, like civil matters, then you can go to court directly. So it's the responsibility of the government to actually maintain laws and order. Then defense of the countries, another functions of government. Now, government is responsible for defending the country against external aggression. Defense, like we have the armies, they do that. Like if there is a war in the country, you don't expect every individual to just come out and start fighting and defending themselves. It's not possible. So the roles of government here is to defend the country, just like we have the war between Russia and Ukraine. You don't expect all citizens to come out and then fight. Then what is government protecting? They are not protecting the lives of the individual, rather they are putting them at stake. So if in a country where there is no uh, defense committee, then it's not a country at all, or it's not a state. So that is one of the functions of the government. Then another functions of government, protection of lives and property is very important. Even the police, they protect lives and property. The armies, they do that. So you don't expect government, like a government, to come and do that. So there are people put in place to actually carry out this responsibility. So government is also responsible for the protection of lives and property. For example, anybody can seek police protection if there is need for it. Like maybe your life is being threatened, you have to go to the police. It's so fortunate that even in Nigeria, we don't really, our system is not actually operating well, but that's the responsibility of a government in a country that is working very well. Now, the sixth one is provision of employment. It's very important. Going to school, graduating from school without job is terrible. So it's the function of the government to actually provide all these necessary things for the citizens to actually enjoy their rights in the country. Now we move to the reason for studying government. Why do we study government? It's a question we have to ask. If I may ask, why do you go to school? Why do you need to study government? I don't know if anyone can just say something, one or two things. Why do you study government? Why is it necessary to study government? Why is it very important to actually know your rights to study government? Anybody? Okay. We study, I don't know if their mics actually Is it muted or it has been on mute?
So,
Hello, can anyone hear me?
yes, the mics are open.
No one is talking. Am I too fast?
No, the mics are open. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can, but nobody's actually responding. Now, I'll talk about the reason for studying government. Why do we study government? Now, one of the reasons why we study government is the type of system. What do I mean by type of system? There are different system of government that are being operated in different countries. Like we have in UK, they operate parliamentary system of government. In Nigeria, we have the democratic system of government and the rest. Before now, Nigeria was actually operating parliamentary system of government before the independence constitution. And then we moved from parliamentary to republican form of government, and now we're in democratic system of government. So with this, like learning about government, you actually know the type of system of government that been operated in Nigeria. Without this knowledge, without you getting any knowledge, going to school and knowing about government and the type of system, you will not even know the types of system that Nigeria have operated on. So it helps you to, it widen your knowledge to know the types of system, not only in your country, but also outside the country. It also widens people's knowledge, very important. The study of government may help you to widen your knowledge about administration, institution, like about government, politics, how they operate, what they do, your right as a citizen, a lot of knowledge you get from actually studying government. Then another reason for studying government is political education. I'll answer questions after the class, please. Just hold on. And nobody's even responding. So I'm just like, let me just finish first. Now, reason for studying government, like I said political education. Like government educate the people of a country on their political life, their affairs, their rights as citizens, their right to vote, and the rest. So in learning government, they educate even how to vote during election. You know your rights. This is who you want to vote for, and this who like that. So you actually know your rights. Political education. There are opportunities for leaders. Like most people are complaining that the presidents, they are not competent enough. Those people leading us, they are not competent. In studying government, you really have the opportunity to be a leader because you learn a lot about politics, you learn a lot about government, you learn a lot about how the different structures are put in place and how people actually how to govern a country or a state. So that's like one of the reasons for also studying government. So without the knowledge of government, you won't even um, have the opportunity to lead, first of all, and know your rights as a leader or what to do as a leader and the rest. Then conflict resolution is another reason for studying government. Conflict resolution. Like government provides you with the opportunity to know how to resolve conflict in our organization. If there are disputes between a country and another country, or in the parliamentary system, or during your tenure, there are lots of conflict. You actually know what to do, what to say, how to handle everything. So in learning government, you know all of this. The mistake of the past leaders, it's very important to know. With government, I believe they've taught you people about the political crises that took place from 1960, 1952, 1926, all of them. Like, the mistake of the past leaders, what they did, like, even when the colonial masters, they came, the rules that were put in place, we're using warrant chiefs and the rest, about all of those things. So it helps you to not only know about the mistake of the past leaders, but actually for you not to also make the same mistake that those past leaders made. Because most time we complain a lot that, oh, assuming this was not like this, I don't think the country would have been like this. Then what are you doing to actually change things? That's it. So you know the mistake. This was what happened before, and this was what led to this. So if you put this in place, I think there will be changes. You just learn about the mistakes and the rest. Then we move to politics. I don't know if you have any question based on what I just finished explaining. If you have, please ask. And don't type, talk so that we hear you, please. I don't know if people can hear me.
Yes. Sorry.
I want us
You
to
said that.
ask, but
Hello, can you hear
nobody
me?
knows anything. Yes, I can hear you.
Hello. Okay, I was saying you mentioned three types of government. You said Republican,
Yeah.
paramilitary, and democratic. But I don't know what's the difference between Republican and democratic.
When I finish, we'll answer all these questions. Just write your question down, please. Okay, let me just attend to it quick. When you talk about democratic and Republican, it's before now, when Nigeria were under the parliamentary system of government, we have the Queen as the head of. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, yes, I can.
Now, having the Queen as the head of state, then moving to Republican, it means the Queen is no longer the head of state. It therefore means that we have the presidential system of government whereby one person can actually be the head of government and the head of state. Dual authority. I don't know if you've heard about that. Executive, like a particular person can actually be a head of state. And I'm trying to break it down so that you understand, because I don't want to go into definition. Person can be like a particular person can be a head of state and a head of government. Like when you talk about the parliamentary system of government, we have the Queen as the head of state. Then we have governor as, sorry, the premier as the head of governors. But in Republican, we remove the Queen, and then a single person is not having being the head of state and the head of government. Then if you come to democratic system of government, this is the process whereby the people now, they express their political power through either directly or indirectly, like through their representative or by themselves. I don't know if you can understand, if you understand.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you talk about democratic system of government, it means like each citizen has freedom to actually nominate whoever they want to be their leader. They have rights and the rest. You get it? But we'll explain more. Let me just finish so that we can actually meet the time. Reason for studying government now. Why do we study? Okay, I finished this. Now we're talking about definition of politics. What is politics? Yeah, there are lots of definitions to politics, but I don't know if anyone can actually give me a clear definition of politics. I know people have done this before, so we don't have to waste time on this, please. Hello? Can you hear me? Hey, Jesus.
Yes, you can hear you.
What is politics? At least anything you understand by politics, any definition.
Okay. I think. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think politics is probably the pattern of government country. That's what I think.
Okay. What I have is politics is a process of making decisions that apply to members of a group, particularly within a state or a community. Now, politics involve the struggle for power because there are a lot of definitions to politics actually. So you can say politics involve the struggle for power, distribution of resources, and conflict resolution among individuals or in our everyday life. The term politics refers to the way that countries are governed and to the way that government makes rules and law to manage the human society. I don't know which one is more preferable for you to understand. Now we have Harold Laswell defined politics as who gets what, like he defined politics that politics means who gets what, how, and when in a society. Like when you talk about who, people, all the group in power, they are the who. When you talk about what, it means the benefits, what you want to get, the privilege you want to get. Then when you talk about when, the process, the time, how long will it take? I don't know if you understand. So when you talk about politics, the act of making a decision of how a society runs, you can put that down. It's making a decision of how a society runs. It involves debates, power, struggles, election. Like I said, you can define politics in different ways. What I have here on the slide said it's the process of making decisions that apply to members of a group, particularly within a state or a community. That's one. Then it involves the struggle for power. Like we have people going into politics because of power. They want to rule. Most people are not even there just because of power. Most people are there for money. Now, distribution of resources and conflict resolution. So politics is not all about gaining power. It's just so for resources, conflict resolution, leadership, and the rest. How to run a society, the decision. I don't know if you understand. Making a decision of how to run a society. Now, for example, we have the governance, exercising authority and control. We have policy making, like you creating law, regulations that guide the people in the country and the rest. Now, Aristotle defined politics as the study of a state and how it should be organized to achieve a good life. I repeat, Aristotle defined politics as the study of a state and how it should be organized to achieve good life. So when you talk about politics, it's not only by running election, trying to gain political power, but also how to make decisions in society. Don't know if you understand. If you have any question, you can go back to that. Then we have method approach to the study of government and politics. Methods and approach. One, we have the philosophical approach. Now, when you talk about philosophical approach focuses on asking deep questions. You know what is philosophy? Like thinking, like deep thoughts about something. You don't just have to somebody have to tell you. You have to think yourself, a deep thinking. So it's like our approach are focused on asking deep critical questions about government. I hope you guys can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, it talks about government.
Yes.
What is nature, the nature of a state, the origin of a state, why should the individual obey the state, like all those kind of thinking. So it has to do, because I think these questions they repeated it twice in JUPEB. So it's, if you know this thing, it's not about knowing the definition, but actually digesting it so that even when you see it in the exam, you can actually explain it the way it is. So it talks about philosophical, talk about thinking, asking deep critical questions about government, power, justice, freedom, and rights. Now it tries to understand the ideal form of government and what makes law and authority legitimate or just. Like, what is justice? What rights do individual have? What's your right as an individual? How many freedoms should individual have? What is the right for government? What is government's right? What is the best form of government? Like, if I may ask, what's the best form of government according to like the experience you've had? Maybe I think you've read about the whole constitution from 1920 22 down to 1999 constitution. What's the best form of government you can, even apart from even reading about the constitution, there are different system of government. We have the parliamentary system of government, unitary system of government, republican form of government, federal system of government, and the rest. So to you, which do you think is best? I hope people are understanding, please. I just want people to.
I think,
Okay.
I think from my own observation, I feel the um, paramilitary is somehow better because it seems like there are many things that they don't permit, some kind of excesses that they don't permit. Like there's this country that recently their president is now a military person. So, and the country, since he became, I think Mali or so, since he became the president, things have changed and there is more like order in the country. So, from my own opinion, I think paramilitary is better.
Can I hear from someone else? I don't even know people. Hello, can I hear from another person, please? But military is kind of very rigid, very, very rigid and tough. But anyway, that's your opinion. So when you talk about the philosophical approach, talks about the best form of government. What's the best? You think, okay, from now, what you've said is from your thinking. You analyze, you think. This is what you think is best. That's what philosophical approach is talking about. Asking deep questions about government. What do you think? What's the best government? Even with all this thing happening, say we're operating democratic system of government, here nothing is democratic. People cannot express themselves freely. And yes, I said, in democratic system of government, the citizens are allowed to express themselves without any limitation. But if you cannot express yourself, so what's the essence of actually practicing a democratic system of government, whereby an individual cannot speak, cannot come out to the public and say, this is what we don't like? Then it's not even a democratic system of government, then it's a military, because it's kind of using force to suppress everybody, like you don't speak. When you speak, you're after your life and the rest. So all this thinking about government, what you think, like you see it, oh, this was, sometimes you sit and you argue among yourself. That's what philosophical approach talks. Justice, the freedom, your rights, what gives government its legitimacy? When is it right for government to restrict liberty? How many freedoms should the individual have? All those questions. Now, moving to normative approach. Now, the normative approach deals with how things ought to be in politics. How things ought to be in politics. It focuses on values, ethical standards, ideal, rather than facts or data. The approach tries to answer what is right, fair, or just in politics, how government should operate, and not just how they do operate. Because if you want to actually explain how a democratic system of government should operate, it's actually different from what we are experiencing now. I don't know if you agree with me. You said maybe you're not following. So it's actually different. So how government should operate, this is how they're supposed to operate, giving every individual their rights as a citizen operating a democratic system of government. Because the people, they appointed you to actually represent them in political matters. And you have to be transparent and accountable. So if you're not doing that, then all those kind of things, how government should operate, and not just how they do operate. So if you want to talk about the system of government operating in Nigeria, they're just operating the way they like and not how it should be operated. I don't know if you understand. I'm trying to explain so that to digest. At least if somebody call you, you'll be able to explain normative, philosophical approach. Please, if you don't understand, you can draw my attention back to it. Please, I'm trying my best to actually break it down. Hope you get it. So most times the
Yes.
question is Nigeria, are you the only one responding? I don't understand. Are you the only one in the class?
No.
Why are they not talking? Just yeah, I will sleep off now. So it talks about Nigeria democracy. Is it fair? Is it just? What should happen? And not just what is happening. I don't know if you understand. What should happen and not just what is happening. So that's what normative actually focuses on. Then we move to institutional approach. It's very easy. When you talk about institution, what is institution? The different institution, like the executive. I think I wrote it here. Okay. The institutional approach focuses on the structure, rules, and function of political institution, like the executive, the legislature, judiciary, political parties, and constitution. It studies how this institution works. Like if you want to say executive, they actually implement the law, the legislature, they make the law, and the judiciary, they implement the law, isn't it? So it talks about the political parties, there are different political parties. It talks about the constitution, what your right is written in the constitution, what you should know about your right and your right. Study how this institution works differently. Who make the rules? Who make the laws? If I may ask, who make the laws in the country? Hello?
You did.
Hmm? What I heard
Hello, the
judiciary.
judiciary.
No, judiciary don't make laws. They interpret the laws, punish offenders.
Okay, then.
The legislature, they make laws. They amend the constitution. They check the power of the executive and the rest. Then when we get to separation of power, you actually know all of this. Then the study how this institution actually works, like I've explained, how they are designed to work and how they affect political behaviors. Then we'll go to historical approach. Historic, when you talk about history, past, something that has happened before. Now, historical approach studies post-political events like institutions, leaders. We have different leaders, the first political party, and the rest, and system to understand how politics has evolved and how it affects the present. Like I said, when we were explaining was it functions of government, how it affects the present. So when you talk about, like, let me use how this one, how it affects the present. Like, for example, you talk about okay, the division of the country then, due to Lord Lugard's constitution and Richard's constitution, whereby they divide the country into unequal parts, giving the northern part a lot of land, and the rest. So you talk about the past leaders, what's happened, and how all those things affect the present now. And the rest, indirect rules, the constitution, and the rest. Then it sees politics as a process that unfolds over time. Things changes. Like before independence, we operate different types of government, like indirect rules. Whereby I know you know the definition of indirect rule, where the colonial masters, they actually operate through our traditional rulers. No, let me be fast so that we'll meet up with time. So That's historical approach. It helps you to remember past events, those things that happened in the past, and how they shape the present. That's the simple definition for historical approach. Then we go to qualitative approach and quantitative approach. Please take notes because this question can confuse you. They can say, they can explain something and tell you and ask you to actually differentiate them. So when you talk about qualitative approach, it's a research method focused on understanding human experience, like how people behave and their social phenomena, like through their details. It has to do with non-numerical data. Instead of measuring or counting things, quantitative research or explore how and why something happened. I don't know if you understand. Why are people not showing interest towards voting? Like before this Tinubu regime, people were not actually showing interest when it comes to voting. They were actually showing apathy. No interest at all. A lot of apathy. Like when you tell them to come and vote, they will tell you that, why would I come and vote when our votes don't count? All those kind of things. So you experiment, my votes don't count, and what's the essence of going there? So that's the behavior, political apathy. People don't show interest. So you measure those things due by what their experiences and behavior. Why are people reacting like this? What's the reason behind this? Why are they behaving like this? Why are they not participating in political activities? All those kind of things. So when it comes to now quantitative approach is a research method focused on collecting and analyzing numerical data to identify pattern, test, hypotheses, and make predictions. It emphasizes objectivity, measurement, and statistical analysis. For example, like census, if they want to count the people in a particular family, they have to come. Instead of using like this qualitative approach, whereby they will say, okay, I heard that there are 3 persons in your house, or I heard that they have 5 persons in your house. In quantitative approach, you will count this. So it has to be numerical data. How many people are in this family? If we want to distribute these resources, how are we going to distribute it based on the number of people that are in this family or based on the number of people in the country? If we want to give job opportunities to how many, even sometimes like political opinion counts like that. I don't know if you understand. So when you talk about qualitative, it focuses on understanding human experience, behavior. Why are they behaving like this? Why are they not participating in this? Why are they not showing interest? Then when you come to quantitative approach, research methods, focus on collecting and analyzing data. These are the numbers. Like, I don't know if any of you have witnessed census, but I don't know. I don't think I don't think so. Maybe I've forgotten, but I've not seen anybody actually continue. So and so like that. So you understand the qualitative approach and the quantitative approach. I may ask you, what's the difference between qualitative and quantitative approach? One has to do with focusing on human experience, their behavior, towards politics, and the rest. It does not really need details about data and anything. But in quantitative approach, research focuses on collecting and analyzing numerical data. Now we go to behavioral approach, like name behavior. Like most of these things I'm saying, they're actually interwoven, like intertwined. They are similar, kind of. It's just for you to understand the differences and then how to explain it and the rest. Now when you go to behavioral approach to politics focuses on studying how individuals actually behave in political situation. Like if you look at these quantitative, no, not quantitative, I think philosophical, normative, and these, they're actually kind of very similar. Even this qualitative, so most of them are very similar. So the behavioral approach to politics focuses on studying how individuals actually behave in political situation, rather than just analyzing political system or institution in theory. It uses methods from psychology and sociology to understand political action and attitude, like how do people relate and the rest. Now, when you go to empirical approach, the empirical approach to politics involves studying political phenomena based on observable facts, evidence, and real-world data, rather than opinion of ideas. It answers questions like what is rather than what should be. What is, like, let me go back to that. Real world data rather than opinions or ideas. It answers a question like what is rather than what should be. What is, why is it? Like, let me give you another example of this empirical. Like, it talks about facts, evidence, providing the evidence. You don't just want to see just people acting. Let's see the evidence. Like when you go to court and you want to present a case and you said this person actually killed somebody and you don't have the evidence to show that he killed the person, then you cannot even win. Even if the person truly killed the person, maybe he committed a crime, as far as you don't have that evidence, there's no way you can prove. So it has to do with facts and evidence. How many citizens vote in elections? And instead of just like opinion, what do you think? How many people do you think voted? How many citizens voted? Like facts, behavior, real world data, and the rest. So most of them are actually related. Then we'll go to the relationship with other disciplines. Oh my God, this is still long. Hope you guys are following.
Yes, ma'am.
I just don't want to. I need more than one voice, please. More than one response.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. We'll talk about relationship with other discipline. I know maybe this is not the way they explain it. I'm trying my best to actually explain it in a way that even if you're in the exam hall, you can actually explain it your own way, the way you understand it from what I'm explaining. That's why I'm taking my time to actually explain it. So we talk about relationship with other discipline, like relationship of government politics with other discipline. Now we have history. Like it also talk about, I think we did something there, historical approach. So you see, they are almost similar, but I just have to explain, but I will be quick. Now, political science depend on history to understand how political systems, idea, and institutions develop over time. Like I explained where we talked about the historical approach, how they develop from the first, from 1914 Constitution, 1922, 1946, 1951, 1954, 1960, 1963, 1979, 1989, 1999. I don't know if you understand how they develop. You should know your constitution. You don't just have to just master it, because questions can come from there. So if they ask you any question from any side of the constitution, you should be able to answer. If it's 1999 constitution, you should be able to answer. If it's 1914, like that. So how they develop over time, what happened, historical events like wars, like we have I think this second semester people will treat these political crises like the Biafra wars, the Civil War, the 1929 riots, about women riots, then the 1963 election riots, then we have the census riots and the rest. There are lots of wars. And all these crises, actually, during this crisis, there are a lot of leaders, like all these people we have in our currency now, Tafawa Balewa, they were actually killed during all this time. Then you read about the crisis that happened, you get to know how they were killed and the rest and what's happened, what led to that. So this history, you know, all of these, you can actually discuss freely, all this what happened and the rest. And then how we were being colonized, like those people that were actually fighting, like the educated elite and Pan-Africanism and what again. There are a lot of them actually that fought for independence, nationalism, nationality movements, and the rest. All these things help you to even know how you gain independence, what they did, all the crises that took place for even Nigeria to gain her independence. It explains the present structure as well, not only historical, not only about the past, but how it relates to the present. Now, if you want to go deep, if you want to dive deep into politics, you'll see that there are lots of things that happened in the past that is affecting the present. So it helps you to know all of this and the behavior of government and political movements and the rest. So when you talk about law, like I said laws are those rules and regulations that are put in place to actually guide individual behavior. But I said laws, you cannot define law without adding sanction, because if you are defining law and then there is no sanction, then that is not law. It's just a rule. Like stating a rule and say, even a rule self is just an ordinary rule, like obligation you have to just follow. So in defining law, you have to say, okay, the rules and regulation, like even in law, there are limits to government's power, not only to citizens. Their citizens must obey the rules, but there are limits to. That's when we come to constitutionalism and constitution, we get to know that better. So when you talk about law, law and political science are closely linked because laws define the powers and limits of political institutions, like what I just explained. Political, the limits, that's when you come to constitutionalism. When you talk about constitutionalism, you talk about the limits to government power so that they will not actually, how will I put it? They will not trample on the citizens' rights. And then the citizens also, there are rules and regulation that govern their behavior and the rest. So the limits of political institutions, political scientists study constitutions, legal system, and the roles of justice in government. Without law, political authority and order cannot function. But like I said, you can make laws and then there is no sanction, because when you make laws and there's no punishment attached to it, people can't do anything. Because when you go back to how government developed, we said rich oppressing the poor and the minority, like that. So they cannot actually act. So if you allow the whole thing to just remain like that, which means anybody can commit crime and go scot-free without any punishment, because they feel there's no law guiding us. So what's the essence of actually trying to? But then we have natural law, don't forget, because in natural law you talk about your conscience. This thing I'm doing, is it right? I'm going to kill this person. Is it the right thing to do? And the rest. But then, even in social contrast theory about the states, like Thomas Hobbes, those theorists, like I said, he said the state of nature was nasty, according to Thomas Hobbes. Nasty, short, and brutish. So without law, just imagine how the country would be. Everybody will just start killing each other. Now, for us to protect these our individual rights, we have to submit absolutely to government to protect our rights. That's where law came from, to protect our rights. Then in John Locke said, in protecting this right now, yes, we submit our rights to the government to protect our rights. In protecting this right, if the government fails to protect our life, then you can overthrow the government by removing him, because he's not playing the roles which he's supposed to play and the rest. So we'll get to social contract theory, but then laws, all these laws of a state actually formulated from all these theories, all this theory. So we move to, hope I'm not too fast, please.
No, man.
Okay, we move to relationship with other discipline. Okay, we're still there. We talk about the economics. You know what is economics now? So it's easy. Political and economics influence each other. Political, and during the time when we wanted to contest election, and then they said, what happened that time? They changed the currency to one other color. It's without even, there were a lot of crisis and the rest. So government actually influence politics, and politics actually influence government. Like, let me read what is here. Politics and economic influence each other. Political decision affect taxation, budgeting, and economic development. Like that decision they made, how it affected the country. Like people were actually starving. You go to the bank, you see a long queue and the rest, and people are trying to withdraw, no cash and the rest. So politics actually affect the decision of all of this. Decision affect taxation, like their decision, they can just make decision that will just affect the whole economy. Like even apart from that, fair increment, like you have to go and buy for you sweat and pay. Like I don't know how much you pay, like, because you stop buying. because you cannot actually be buying for every day. You just use it how many hours is finished. That is how government affects economics. Taxation, budgeting, economic development, while economic conditions such as poverty, inflation, unemployment can lead to political change, protest, or support for certain policies. And I think we'll still come back to all these things, so I don't just need to explain it so much. We go to geography. The geography, the has to do with land, the boundaries. Okay, let me read what it says. Geography plays a role in shaping the political boundaries, access to resources, and strategic importance of locations. It defines international relations, border disputes, and how governments manage regions with different physical or environmental conditions. If I may ask, what is the characteristic of a state? What are the characteristics of a state? Who can mention the 6 characteristics of a state? We still have time because we started very late. So please, I'm listening. Somebody must talk, not that boy. I need a female voice, please. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Hello.
hear you.
Okay, please. I need somebody to tell me the 6 characteristics of a state before I continue.
Okay. I can mention at least 4.
It's better. Okay.
Okay. Definite territory,
Mm-hmm.
population.
Mm-hmm.
I say definite territory, population, and sovereignty, and this one. Hey, which one? A political entity. Yeah. And I don't know another one.
Political entity, is that one of the characteristics of a state? Oh, that's perfect. You tried anyway. Can somebody try? Someone else should try, please. The reason why I'm asking this question is because of this geography here. So that at least we'll understand. Somebody can try, or I can move on. I can continue. We're not studying now, but we've done this now. First semester, I think we're in second semester already. You see, that's the reason you have to be attending this class. So we have permanence.
Right?
Okay. All right, let me hear from you.
Okay, I think population, sovereignty, governments, ah, government, territory. Those are the ones I know.
It's better you understand this, so because you can see it in your exam. Say define state. They repeated this question twice in JUPEB. Define state. You define state. What are the theories of a state? You define. Then what are the features of the state and all the characteristics of the state? It's very important. There are 6 characteristics of the state, which are the permanent. State must be permanent. If state is not permanent, there is not a state. It's a society because it can dissolve anytime. Then a definite territory. That's why I'm talking like the geographical area boundaries and the rest. The state must have the boundary territory flag. Then government. If without government, there is no state. Without state, there is no government. So the two, they are helping each other kind of. I don't know if I'm fine. You can be jotting it down, notes. Then we have sovereignty. Like sovereignty, it's like the power of what's sovereignty? I think okay, sovereignty is the power the state have over the citizen. Yes, I'm right. I've not forgotten. Okay, sovereignty is the supreme power, right? The supreme power the state have over the citizen, like they make decision guiding, like within the territory. Like the sovereignty of your state, of your country. You can't make decision. Can you hear me? You can't make
Yes.
decision for other countries. For making a decision, it should be within. Just imagine now, maybe America will be making decision for Nigeria for what? even if they're like bureaucracy, they're giving us, telling us what to do. No, we have the right to make decisions ourselves that govern us. So that's sovereignty. I'm trying to explain so that in case anytime, anywhere, you can define it. So it's the supreme power the state have over the citizen in making decisions. Then we have population. If you say a state, if like now in Nigeria, I don't know if we're modern states because the population is like very massive. So in a state, there should be populations because if you have one or two, but there are countries you see like there are small countries like when you go to Rome, small people managing a state. Like now, if Nigeria should split into two now, you see, we'll have small country, but at least the population should be there. Should be not population. The recognition, the state is recognized. Like if you go everywhere in this world and you're not in Nigeria, it means Nigeria is not a state. It must be recognized. If you go to Asia, UK, everywhere, and Nigeria is even very popular and famous. So, yeah.
Sorry, ma. Are you the only? Am I the only person that's not seeing your screen?
Oh, really? Can you all see my screen?
No, I
Hello?
can't see it. I can't see your screen.
Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Hey. What about now? Hello?
I have not started seeing it. I don't know whether it's only me. I
Somebody
don't
should
know.
talk.
Because I'm
You're
hearing
not
you.
answered so that I'll know what to do. Hello, can you all see the screen or just only him?
I'm seeing the screen.
Oh, I think it's your network then.
Okay, okay.
Let me try to hurry up and land up everything. I guess you can see it, right? Can you see it now?
Yes, I can see it now.
All right. Now we'll talk about geography. It plays a shaping political boundaries, access to resources, and strategic importance of location, the influence of international relations, border disputes, and how governments manage region with different physical or environmental conditions. Now we'll go to sociology. Sociology helps political science understand how society and social group affect political factor like religion. Like you know what is sociology now? Like interaction between people in a community and environment or a place. So understand how society and social group affect policies, factor like religion, ethnicity, class, education, influence, voting pattern, etc. Then we have the psychology. It's almost like the same with the other one. We go to scope of government and policies. Now, political theory is one of the scope. Sorry, excuse me. It's one of the scope of government and policies. We have these days with idea and principle that guides political system. It exploits concepts like justice, liberty, equality, democracy, and the role of the state. It also includes the study of political philosophers like Plato, Locke, and Marx. Now, let me give you another definition from where I understand. Now, political theory is the study of idea and principle. I hope that one is more simpler. Like ideas and principle that explain how government and society should work. Like I said, we're just doing repetition here. How government and society should work. It helps us to understand the concept of justice, freedom, power. You know what is power? What is authority? what is power, authority, and also practice records as well. Political thoughts, like what we said, power, authority, and the rest. So that's what political theory is. It's the study of ideas, that government should work, how government has so it's important that society and government should work together, not only government working, then society is not doing it, or the society is working, government is not actually doing anything. So they should work together to promote unity, to promote peace, harmony in the state. Now we'll talk about the political economic, like what to repeat. It focuses on the relationship between politics and economic. It studied how, sorry, let me move this. It studied how government policies affect economic activities like trade, taxation, development, and how economic conditions in place. I've explained all this before. When you talk about public administration, administration is the management of both human and material resources for the attainment of government objective or goals. Under the public administration, we have the civil service, the public operation, the local government administration, and the rest. Now, coming down to local government, like, hope you all can see.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, talking about local government, like it's a semi-autonomous body created by the central government to provide administration at the local level. So, any questions? The person that asked about Republican system of government, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Now, like I said before, because I gave you an explanation, now it's the definition. It's a Republican form of government. It's a form of government whereby the state is headed by a president elected for a fixed term of office. Now, unlike a monarchy where you have the king or the queen, succession is to the office of head of state is non-hereditary but elective when it comes to Republican form of government. Instead of succession being like you inheriting the office, it's not done like that in a Republican form of government, but that is done in monarchical form of government. So in Republican form of government, you actually elect the head of state, which is the president, and also acting as the head of government. Now, like I said before the independent constitution, or before we're practicing parliamentary system of government, whereby we have the premier and the queen. But during the 1979 system of government, we actually changed to a presidential system of government. At first, we changed to a Republican form of government. That's why we have the 1963 Republican form of government, whereby they removed the queen as head of state and then gave it to the president. I don't know if you understand. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Then
Yeah, I
when you
can
go,
hear you.
so the president is a ceremonial head of state, then the parliamentary cabinet system of government like that. So it was done like 1962. Then when you go back to democratic system of government, like I said, it's a process whereby the citizen express their political right by either electing their representative directly or indirectly, and they have their full rights. So instead of just coming, and because before then, when we were practicing parliamentary system of government, the rest, there were the people don't just come out and vote. So the vote of the people don't actually count. So, but in terms of democracy, every citizen have the right to express his sovereign power, his power to vote. Like, okay, this is my power. I need to elect this person through voting and the rest. So that's the difference between Republican government and democratic system of government.